Very nice to have you all, and nice to have a different perspective on circular economy. I think we have had great speeches so far, and I hope you speak frankly about what you think and what should happen. But my first question is very simple. Do you think Maharashtra is on the right track towards circular economy? And do you think we see a transition actually happening towards circular economy? If I start from that end, Dr. Joshi, please go ahead.
Just let me clarify, I'm not a doctor, so I'm Shishir. But yes, let me just take it a little more granular. I think rather than talking about the state as a whole, I think we'll need to look at addressing this problem bottoms up from citizens. Because while we're talking about public partnerships, private partnerships, as you rightly said, important to bring in people into the picture. Because finally, while we were talking about the EPR, which was discussed by Mr. Kuti very rightly, and some very interesting suggestions came from that panel, I think it's important that we have the ethical consumer responsibility also being brought in. So the ECR needs to be brought in, not maybe in a punitive way, but in a more action-oriented way. What we managed to do at a Project Mumbai level is, yes, bring about a slightly scalable model of people's participation. The state will support, participate, once you see people being far more responsive. But I'm seeing that in a very, very strong manner, things are moving in the right. But it's still a drop in the ocean. There's so much more to be done. I know we're going to be, before I continue, you're going to see that we are running out of time. So I'll stick myself to this short answer at this point.
Thank you, and let's move ahead in the order.
So, are we on the right track? Yes, most definitely. We have circular economy markets growing at 8% globally and 12% in India. So definitely we are seeing a structural change. For example, the Maharashtra government last year brought out this circular economy directive, which addresses recycling various kinds of waste, for example, construction materials or say battery waste, all these different kinds of waste. But we also need to look at some of the gaps that still exist. For example, we could also look at agricultural waste, which is millions of tons that is produced in Maharashtra and it's burnt away. It's not used for anything. Some industries like Praj are dealing with this, but then we need more such industries and more such startups dealing with this. Apart from that, there is textile waste. There is 25 to 30 million tons of construction waste that is generated every year. So we need to look at circular economy from a holistic perspective, from we need to address all the different kinds of waste that we are generating and how can we generate some value out of it. And if we look at, say, Europe's example, Germany has 67% of recycling that's happening currently, and 12% of circularity has been achieved in Europe so far. But it took about 30 years to get there. It's not done in a day or two. So in India, our villages, we have this, we have this very good base of repair, reuse, recycle, all these concepts. We already have it in us. So we need to build upon that. And in addition, we need to look at it like in the last panel, we talked about how we need to bring science and technology and look at it from that perspective to eventually be able to achieve that. So we need a farmer, a scientist, an investor, a politician and a policymaker on the same table, close this loop, and that's how I look at circularity.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today, Eva. I will take a liberty to talk about, in an individual point of view, like SARS, from a bottom-up mechanism, because as we agree, it is not a one person's role or a one department's role to work on a circular economy. Firstly, 10 years back, if you would have asked me what is circular economy, I could just say, oh, it is a recycling. I see a label on a product, yes, it is recycle, and I'm done my part. But it's not that simple. It is how the society produces and how we consume it and how we value our resources. Take today's conflict in Middle East. We could do a lot of things that can really reduce our energy bills on a country if you use the resource that is within your limits. The main part was the throw away habit. Like we all know that it is inbuilt to us. We breathe, we inhale, exhale, we sleep, we throw away. Don't say that there is no one here that don't throw away things. We all do that. How did that particular habit came into us. You should go and just dig into textbooks. A century back, we got used to that habit. Thanks to then corporates, they successfully embedded that habit into us, which is still very difficult for us to come out of it. And that's where I see are we on track with this sustainability or circular economy? We just started. I don't see we are still at that phase. We have to do a lot from both bottom-up and top-down mechanism. Mostly we have to work towards resource-efficient society. That's in our, as an entrepreneur, as an individual, as a citizen, it is our role to do that. And yeah, I leave it to them to take a decision on that.
Thank you, Dr. Eva. Thank you, Eric, for having me. And I represent a different stakeholder here, that is the educational institutes. And so we've heard from the policymakers, we've heard from the industrialists, we've heard about how the bottoms-up approach works in circular economy. And I am representing higher educational institutes here, the responsibility that lies with institutes like us to make circular economy a part of our mindsets. And as a lot of people say that in India, we've had this mindset for ages earlier also. And the question that you asked was, is Maharashtra on the right track? But I'm not competent enough to answer that question, because we can focus and answer on what we are doing in Maharashtra to do our bit in order to groom a more circular economy conscious generation. So we are working with master students who are doing their post-graduation in management. So these are the MBA students or the undergrad students, and we are working with them to make them more conscious of the environment, of their responsibility towards sustainability, because this is the new generation which will have to work with the solutions that we have provided, which will become their problems to deal with in future. So what we have done is that we have started a circular lab. We have started a course on circular economy where the students learn about the complexities of the circular economy frameworks. And we are also doing the application part of it through different kinds of live projects that students do in villages across India. So it is more about giving them the responsibility that we need to be a generation which is more conscious about the problems of the earth right now. And for that, it is important for all of us to think in terms of how do we become more sustainable, in terms of conserving the energy that we have, in terms of conserving the climate that we have. Then also learn about the carbon deficit that different industries or different principles that we use are leaving. But at the same time, the most important part for all of us right now is to be conscious about living a life which is more sustainable and more intensely thinking about circularity in our lives.
Sorry, thanks. Very rightly said. I think what is missing in this entire chain is awareness. What we are still addressing is a very small portion of urban elite, pardon me for saying that, but who are broadly aware of. Today when we show people 2 bottles of plastic, most of them would not know what is good plastic and what is bad plastic. We are still talking about a large mass. For them, recycling or wastage is still not a concept. You talk about Mumbai, which is 60% living in non-urban pockets, and if you try to tell them to segregate their waste, for them the priority is the food and the livelihood. So these are not priorities in a lot of people. Yes, what is required is people like us to start getting other people aware. There are fantastic stories taking place everywhere. I think it's important for us to, while we've had a lot of corporates coming out with some fantastic solutions using science, and what she spoke about, all stakeholders need to come together, need to identify what are the good stories. We need to become better storytellers. We need to narrate these stories in such a way that different stakeholders start becoming more and more aware. Today, the fact remains that in urban pockets, awareness towards this is growing rapidly. There's no doubt about it, but it needs to penetrate into behavioral change. What's missing right now, it's just incidental that what I'm carrying with me, most of you would see is a pen, okay, but I see this as an outcome of chocolate wrappers. This is a pen made from chocolate wrappers. And I didn't carry it to show it to you all, it just happened to be in my pocket. But these are some of the few things that we use to get children become far more aware. And sometimes when we go and talk to children in schools about it, this we already know. We've already been segregating our waste, which becomes a very great kind of a happiness quotient for us. Can we start becoming better storytellers? Can we start sharing our stories so that other people also start following the model? Thank you.
This leads me to my second question, which was actually on what you think the biggest bottleneck is for a circular economy or a circular transition, and what we should do to unblock it. So you were saying it's raising awareness. Maybe would that be the sort of biggest block, that there's not enough awareness? Happy to hear all the panelists.
Yeah, I think
also
awareness, and coupled with the fact that, since you spoke about Maharashtra, I'll take it broader to India. I think one of the previous panelists spoke about the very same people behave themselves in other places. Our punitive measures are not very strictly enforced. So the enforceability of some of the laws, we do have a lot of people sometimes question us, does India have the laws? If you start looking about, even there the awareness is lacking. We have fantastic regulations, we have some very good laws, we have some very good processes where behavioral change can be enforced. The lack is the enforceability. I think a mixture of these two can play a great role in expediting.
So I would like to add on to what Shishir sir just said. So I, being from a scientific background, would like to look at it from that perspective. And for example, we have many technological processes for various kinds of waste valorization initiatives and so on. But there is a lack of information flow. For example, a farmer who is sitting in Vidarbha or Marathwada, he may not know that the material, that the waste that they are generating in the agricultural fields has so and so potential, has so and so value that can be generated out of it. And they may not know how to connect with the right people, the processors, and the processors may not have the right information to connect with the investors and so on. So it's a chain. So there is a lack of information symmetry which we need to address to begin with to be able to do this. Now, second point is, in the earlier panels we talked about EPR, monitoring, tracking, regulation, all these points. Which is important, but I would like to talk about a prerequisite of all these, which would be life cycle analysis, which also we talked about in one of the panels, how for each and every material, each and every product, we need to do an in detail life cycle assessment to understand what would be the environmental implications, or how much energy, how much electricity, all these factors that go into it, and what is the final carbon footprint that comes out of it. But one problem which I would like to highlight here is the database which we use for life cycle analysis is largely European, even in Indian industries. We do not have an Indian database which tracks the information, for example, from Indian power plants or all of the different kinds of industries, different kinds of materials that goes into it. So we need to develop such a database. We need to do detailed analysis for each and every product to finally understand what goes into it, and based on that we need to make these regulatory and monitoring frameworks. So that is my second point. And third one would be, each and every policy that we talked about looks at circular economy or waste recycling or valorization from a single product perspective. For example, we are taking sugarcane bagas and we are getting ethanol out of it, and that's that. But what about the remaining materials? Like we can get some biochemicals out of it, or we can get some specialty chemicals, which has huge value. For example, if I take 1 ton of sugarcane, I can get ethanol out of it, and I can generate say 2,000 rupees per ton of that sugarcane. But if I am extracting all the other materials from it, I might be able to get 15,000 rupees out of it per ton. So why are we not focusing on that? Why are we focusing on only a single product scenario? We need to focus on this multi-product scenario. And while I'm at it, to do this, to extract these processes, we should also look at the processing part of it. As in, we need to, if suppose I'm generating ethanol out of waste, very good, but what if I'm using acid to do so? That's not a green method. We are generating a carbon, an environmental footprint right there. So we need to look at the processing part of it, each and every micro detailing of it, for which we again need a life cycle analysis to completely understand this in detail. Now, coming to the next part is, if I develop a process in my lab, sitting in my lab, it's only for a very small quantity, for example, 500 ml. Now, if I want to scale it up to a 50,000 liter commercial plant, I would need a lot of support in terms of financial support or governance support to be able to do this. So we need to create the right innovative ecosystem. We need to develop innovation clusters to be able to achieve this. And in the process, we should also involve local communities. For example, at ORF, we work on ocean economy, blue economy. So Maharashtra has a 720 kilometer coastline, and with this we can have seaweed biorefineries. We have like 80 to 90 tons of only mollusk and shellfish waste, which we can use to generate value out of. Now, can we have the right support for the ocean communities or the coastal communities to segregate this waste properly, to be able to take it from oceans to the processors? And can we have the right support for small innovation clusters, MSMEs, local entrepreneurs to be able to achieve this? So these are some of the bottlenecks that I observe.
From my point, the biggest bottleneck we see is there's a lot of breakage between the departments. Like, for example, a manufacturer producing and it is going into the supply chain, and a consumer using it. What happens after that? If I'm a sustainable citizen, I wanted to do something with that or dispose it properly. I don't have a mechanism for that. I don't have a system for that. Yes, it is being developed in Europe a lot, because I've been working with PS Lifestyle of Sitra. It has taken 500,000 people's data, and a lot of them showed that a reuse has to be created, and that mechanism has to come very strongly, which we don't have here. We don't have a reusing, or it used to be, but last 20 years, 30 years, we don't reuse it, we just dispose it. We just throw it. That is the biggest bottleneck, I would say. And life cycle assessment, last 1 century, whatever innovations happened, this was not considered. Let's take a plastic, like a previous panelist told, it was actually a magical material. It solved a lot of other problems, but we didn't know how it's going to end up. Especially after World War II, it exploded. And even that plastic produced 100 years back, still it is there here. That was completely neglected, and now I think after Paris Agreement 2015, it's been seriously considered. Like, every innovation that is coming out has to be certified with their life cycle assessment. Once that fixes, most of the things gets fixed. And in an individual point of view, I think there should be a mechanism like a CIBIL and a unified payment system, where your climate positive actions are recorded and stored, so that maybe you give that to your future generation as an asset.
Thank you. And then thoughts from the academic side.
Thank you, Eva. So, according to me, ticking the box mentality is the biggest roadblock. So, whatever we are doing in the circularity system right now, more of it is more symbolic. For example, we are working on building a circularity index for assessment of accreditation bodies at the moment. And so when we are working on that index, it is working from the perspective of how do we get better marks on that kind of an index. But then we are not working on making something that will change things on the grassroots. So the mentality, I would not say that it is an Indian mentality, but it is the mentality of putting in a band-aid. That is, we are looking for quick fixes at that time. And so because of that approach, we are not building something which will be long-term, which will be moving towards the longevity of, say we are talking about the design issue or the product issue. But when I look at it in the education sector, so we are not working to build something which is going to work long-term. What we are building is all to tick the boxes. And that is what, it won't solve our problems at all.
Thank you. Seems that there are quite fundamental problems still to tackle. My final question to you all, and also final remarks, is what kind of collaboration do you think is needed for a circular economy transition, and with what kind of organizations do you now build new partnerships? Thank you.
So I'm just going to use this opportunity to talk about the Mumbai Climate Week. That can't be a better and bigger collaborative platform. Project Mumbai, the organization which I founded, we have created this opportunity for all of us sitting here. We had the first edition, which many of us never really thought that a Mumbai city could really bring in a few hundred organizations, 300 organizations came together, 30 countries joined in. But what we are looking at is creating an opportunity to have conversations on climate, conversations on solutions, and looking at hope. So I'm just going to leave this here, that all of you here, if you feel that there is a solution, if you do believe that there is hope, which I personally believe, can we get together to look at solutions, look at the Mumbai Climate Week as a platform to come and work together, bring down silos in climate conversation, okay, look at working together, because this is the moment. India is really poised in a very, very positive and nice manner. There is some fantastic work, and I've seen Tata Motors, JSW coming out with, and the Mahindra Group, some fantastic work scientifically that they're talking about. All of us can put our heads together to come out and find solutions. I'll leave myself with that there is a platform available. Let's make use of it.
It was a great event, I agree. So good you brought it up.
We would not like this to be an event. We'd like this to be an ongoing conversation. Yes.
Okay, so I would like to highlight one main point which I observed, is that in addition to collaborations across research, academia, industry, and so on and so forth, even we need to have collaborations within our system. For example, if we look at ocean waste governance, if you want to use this waste in a circular way, it's scattered across different ministries, it's scattered across different schemes, like it could come under a Swachh Bharat mission, it could come under a waste to wealth vision, and so on and so forth. So can we have a nodal central system where people from all these different ministries or all these different agencies are coming together and they're making decisions for circular economy initiatives? That is one thing. And second is, as I highlighted before, we have high world-class research institutions, we have the technology. So can we really collaborate with one another to take it forward? And at the same time, can we also bring informal sectors and local communities into it? For example, there is a company called Sathi Pads, which is in Gujarat. So what they also do some work in Maharashtra. So what they're doing is they're using these banana fibers and they're making sanitary napkins out of it. And the people who are making it, they employ local women to do that, and they purchase this waste from the farmers. So there is a loop there. There is socio-economic development, and at the same time they are generating value out of it. So can we have this system from a rural communal level to a governmental level or a ministry level? So this is where the real win will be.
Regarding collaborations, I'll give an example of what we are working already with Dubai Municipality, Dubai government, along with BITS Birla Institute of Technology, Dubai. What we did is we introduced an ID system. It will be a unified climate ID for our students over there, co-issued by the university. It will stay with them for our entire life. They live 90 years, it stays with them. 100 years, it stays with them. It records all the climate positive actions which are verified and approved by government of Dubai and also BITS Birla campus there. So it records on a chain. 2 years later, I go to a Birla, maybe Pantaloon somewhere, I want to purchase something. If they wanted to reward some sustainable users or recognize some sustainable citizens, they can just take your ID and scan your ID and give you your green citizen discounts. This successfully worked in Dubai, and now we are looking at expanding. We are already in Finland for sure. And for a global south, we started with Dubai, and now we are in discussions with AP government, Andhra Pradesh government, where they introduced very surprising, and I felt very surprised by seeing that. Every household holds their waste, and when a special vehicle comes to their doorsteps, they give that, they weigh the waste, and they have a slot for a 1 kg of plastic waste, they get 100 rupees.
Not only that, we work with villages in Maharashtra. So our students did a project with that. What more can we do in order to make them sustainable? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing in insights about citizen, community and student awareness raising and having them on board in this circular economy transition as well. I'll now thank you all. There will be some small gifts handed over to all speakers. And many are maybe already waiting for lunch soon, but we'll have one more panel and a closing statement also from our visiting ambassador. So let's move to the next panel.